Hey, what's up? It's Root Beer. I'm covering Matt's shift for the Roundup this week, although he never actually does these anyways, so I guess I'm just doing another shift of the Roundup this week. So I'm gonna be skipping over the V Premium reveals this time just because it saves me time in editing, and also we're gonna talk about it on set eventually anyways. Let's get started. For Keter Sanctuary, we have Soaring Dragon, Prideful Dragon. It is a grade 3, 13k. Auto, rearguard circle. When it attacks, if you have 4 or more grade 3 rearguards, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, draw a card. If you persona route this turn, you can give it 5k and a crit instead of drawing 1 card, so has some decent finisher potential. And I don't see a once per turn on that, so you can potentially have it gain 10k and 2 crits if you have that much resources to spare. Pretty decent card. Like, draws stuff early and gains a bunch of power late, so not as broken as Alden, but it's also cheaper, and probably, in terms of actual money, cheaper than Alden. So not bad. We have Knight of Skybreak, Capald. Grade 2, 10k for Keter. Auto, when it is put to rearguard circle from your hand, you may pay the cost of Counterblast 1 and rest one of your other rearguards. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an order or a grade 3, add it to hand, otherwise call it to rearguard circle. So, not bad. A way of gaining advantage without having to actually sacrifice anything, unlike Diamond Sorceress. So this card is just a straight up plus. Probably intended for Phantom Blaster because, you know, you're resting a rearguard and calling something random off the top, so it's just like retire fodder, but also useful for Hexa Orb because that deck desperately needs pluses. And then, speaking of Phantom Blaster, we had reveals for all of the encounter cards today. Ugh. You already saw my riveting card read when they were revealed on stream, but just to reiterate, we have Blaster Javelin. When rode upon by Blaster Dark, reveal the top card of your deck and call it to rearguard circle as rest. If it's a unit card, discard it if it isn't. And during your turn, if you have Vanguard with Blaster in its name, power plus 2000. So, probably not going to be played for its rearguard skill. 10k booster just isn't really good enough to see play. But for its ride line ability, it's actually not that bad. Like, being able to call a card rested is nice. And it is a +1, so if you call something useful, you could, like, save it for the next turn. Then we have Blaster Dark himself. When this unit is placed on Vanguard rearguard circle, counterblast 1, and retire another rearguard. Choose one of your opponent's rearguard, retire it, it gets drive +1 until end of turn. Not bad for if you're being early rushed, and then continuous rearguard circle during your turn. If a rearguard was retired this turn, gets power plus 5000, generic beater skill. Not terrible, it's a good piece of spot retire for Keter Sanctuary. It is fully generic, both just as a rearguard and for its ride line skill, so you don't need Phantom Blaster for anything it does. Probably won't get the 5k consistently without Phantom Blaster, but I think just for the ride line skill, you know, if you have the Counter Blast available, you just get an extra drive check, you're still going net 0 thanks to Blaster Javelin's call skill, or let's say you just call a really good rearguard that you want to keep for the next turn, you can opt not to use it and still just have the +1, so, you know, this is always kind of going to go plus, which is really nice. Then we have Phantom Blaster himself. Hang on a second, let me get the voice ready. When this unit is placed on the Vanguard circle, choose a card with Blaster in its card name from your soul, and you may call it to the rearguard circle. Act Vanguard once per turn. You can counterblast 1 and retire 3 rearguards. Choose up to 2 of your opponent's rearguards and retire them. This unit gets power plus 10,000 and critical plus... Sorry, I think I almost fell asleep trying to read this ability, so this is actually just its V skill with slightly different numbers. I know a lot of people are like, whew, this card isn't broken, but, like, when I heard these encounter cards being announced, this is exactly what I was afraid of them doing, just rehashing the exact same skill with different numbers, so this is actually the most boring goddamn card. It's probably not going to be very good, just because perfect guards exist. Yes, it can retire 2 of your opponent's rear guards, but, not losing is not the same as winning. I don't really see how this deck gains any pressure outside of just Phantom Blaster skill, so I don't know, this is just... Anyways, we have, for Dragon Empire, Embodiment of Armor, Bar. When rolled upon by Nahalem, Counterblast 1, search your deck for a grade 1 card, reveal it, and put it to your hand, and once per turn, when your Vanguard's attack hits, it gets power plus 5,000, so actually a significant beater at 13k. Your Vanguard has to hit, but you can kind of play around with that. Obviously, it's designed for Overlord, but probably usable in other decks too. Big thing is that its ride skill with Nahalem, at least, is generic, so you can just use it for the Counterblast 1 search. Speaking of Nahalem, Dragon Knight Nahalem. Auto, when rode upon by a unit with Overlord, call it to rearguard circle. Act once per turn, Vanguard with Overlord in its card name, Soul Blast 1. This unit and all of your Vanguards get power plus 5,000 until end of turn, so decently sized beater, plus makes your Vanguard bigger. Combines with Bar skill to become a 28k column, which is nice. The on-ride by Overlord means that the ride line technically isn't generic, but honestly the value of searching a grade 1 card for Counterblast 1 is not terrible. Like, I think it's still better than the entirety of Eugene's ride deck, being able to just consistently search out a grade 1. And then, Dragonic Overlord. Continuous Vanguard rearguard circle. During the battle that this unit attacked a rearguard, your opponent cannot call cards from their hand to guard circle. Auto Vanguard once per turn. When this unit attack hits, Counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. Stand this unit and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So, admittedly, the gimmick of restanding is more interesting than Phantom Blaster's mechanic of retire things, gain a crit. So, there are at least more decisions to be made where you have to think about, do you want the guaranteed restand by attacking a rearguard circle? Is there anything important enough to warrant using that ability? Do you want to, swing face and potentially try to just close out the game early with the restand, especially if you have Tri-Bash? So, Overlord at least has some amount of thinking going into him compared to Phantom Blaster's Unga Bunga, I gain a crit every turn. But, this is like the 13th iteration of this card or something. So, anyways, back to our regularly scheduled reboot. Persistent Icicles, Javina. This is for Le Dark States. It is a grade 3 13k. When it attacks a Vanguard, if number of cards in Soul is 10 or more, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 until end of turn. It gets a Battledore skill. Your opponent cannot call cards from hand to guard unless it's 2 or more cards. Soul Blast 1 is kind of hefty for Borrow Magnus. I don't think you ever reach 10 Soul consistently with Bruce, so, I've gotten to a point with my list that I can get to 10 Soul fairly consistently by the first grade 3 ride, but then, her having the Soul Blast immediately afterwards kind of sets you back a bit for going for that 15k closeout. I guess the nice thing about Borrow Magnus is because you Pale Moon things out of your Soul, you could technically maybe just play, 1 or 2 copies of this. If you Soul Charge it, who cares? You'll just call it out to try and close out the game, so that is something you can consider, especially because Borrow Magnus does have a bit of a harder time making numbers for those extra attacks if you didn't Persona ride, so, might be a worthwhile tech, could even potentially be a one-of just because of the nature of Borrow Magnus. Might bear experimenting, probably it won't though. Freeze Breeze, hey, it rhymed, grade 1 8k, when it attacks that it boosted hits if your Vanguard is Borrow Magnus, Soul Charge 1. If you have 10 or more cards in Soul, Counterblast 1, draw 2. Lol, on hit. Then for Dragon Empire, again, we have Volcanic Gun Dragon. Grade 3, 13k, Persona Ride. Auto rearguard circle. When this unit attacks, if your opponent has no rearguards in the front row, gets power plus 5,000 until end of battle. Hey, 18k beater. That's always nice to have. Can combo with bar to become a 33k column, which is nice for if your opponent gets a trigger. Yeah, it's okay. Front row having to be empty kind of hurts. Oh, also, like, for what's-his-face, Eugene, it's an 18k attacker or something he desperately needed just to be able to make a 28k column consistently. And we have Firebombing, a normal order. Choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets the following ability. Continuous. All your units may attack your opponent's rearguards in the back row. So, nice for Eugene to maybe get rid of some pesky back row, especially if they have something with resist. But also just for Overlord himself. Obviously, snipe a back row, restand. Then, we already saw Diva Motion Maiden Urgula last week, so I'm going to skip that one. Instead, we have Fruiting Season, a grade 2 order. During your turn, all your back row rearguards get power plus 5,000, and then they can't move to other circles and also can't boost. So, obviously designed to buff up your big Magnolia turn where you have the full back row attack, but Atlas says he would prefer actually building a board rather than buffing it up, and the other thing is that all of the orders you could potentially use to build the board also give your things 5k, so, like, the star does seem just a little bit redundant, right? And I believe that is all the cards set for this week, so thank you for watching, everybody. If you liked it, leave a comment, subscribe if you want. Thank you to our $10 patrons, Darren, Cole, and Josh. If you wish to support our Patreon, $5 gets you a whole-ass bonus show, $10 gets you a shout-out, and early access to non-news contents like fights and unboxings. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.